Welcome to a new month, and this is a big one.
This month we're going to talk about confidence.
Woo! We've actually had quite a few requests from people in our community reaching out to us saying, can you talk about confidence? Because it's a big thing. You can really notice if it's, in your life or not in your life. So let's talk about it.
Let's get started. So I'm going to read you the definition of confidence just to begin with. So we have a good base, right? Definition of confidence is the state of feeling certain about the truth of something, right? So their truth, that's that truth bomb again. But is it actual truth, or is it just our perception or our present perception of truth?
That's right. And, I was listening to so much on this topic, trying to prepare, and I was listening to a really great podcast, which I will share in the Power List, by a woman named Mel Robbins, and she defines confidence as the willingness to try. So basically, as she says, we all start off at zero, right? We're all in the same boat. We start here not knowing how to do something, but it's having the courage to take that first step and start to learn something. So the more we practice, the more we prepare, the more we hone that skill. And confidence is a skill. So it's not something you're born with. It's not something, some of us got, some of us didn't get. It's something that you have to work on and you have to practice. And like anything with practice, it gets easier to do it. And even if that thing that, that you're wanting confidence in itself isn't easy, they say that by sheer, preparing and practicing, we're actually setting the brain up, right, for success. And it calms our brain and we feel less anxiety if we feel more prepared. An example for that, I would say, would be like the student preparing for a test. And, we all know how it felt going in and we're like, oh shoot, I really didn't study enough. And just that anxiety, you don't feel confident at all going into that test. But if you have, done your due diligence and you've prepared and you keep going over it, then when you walk in, that confidence is going to be there, right? Because you've practiced and you've done that work that you need to do.
It's a loop too, right? Like you're setting yourself up.
Yeah.
And to get the confidence, you have to have that repetition. You have to have that competence.
Yes.
But the competence comes also from confidence, but so they feed into each other, right? So it is a loop.
It is
really a loop. Yeah.
Competence. Try to say that 3 times fast. So again, Mel Robbins quotes, everybody starts at zero. You start at zero and then you show up. So showing up, it comes down to that courageous step that you have to do. And then from there we develop and go into the work and to develop that skill. The other thing is, so originally we thought, let's do self-worth and confidence. But the more we studied, self-worth is one area and confidence is another. I found that it was also broken down in a different way. So we could take confidence and break it into 2 parts. We can say there's self-confidence, which is very much like self-worth, right? So this is where you're going into deep in and your general beliefs of your own self-worth, your, what you've been taught, all your, what's the word I'm looking for? Your experiences that have molded and shaped you into feeling that this is something really deep. This is your self beliefs, your self-esteem,
Your perception of yourself.
And it's rooted into something, very, very deep, and that's kind of the self-worth, right? So we will refer to that as our self-confidence throughout this unit. And then there's the second part to that, which is situational confidence, right? Now, this is a little bit more based on external factors or specific factors to things like, again, you're preparing for a test. So you can say, I'm not a confident person, right? If you're referring in general, right? When we have specific things that we might feel confident in that area.
Like the first time you rode a bike, you were not confident getting on that bike.
Yeah.
Or when the training wheels came off, or whatever the case may be. But you weren't confident until you realized, until you took that effort and you took that chance and you were brave enough to try.
Yeah.
And as soon as you tried and you got it, even if you fell off once or twice, that gave you that confidence to know, oh, I can do this, right? So that's the situation.
Yeah, that's a very good example too. So it's something specific, right? So it's context specific, and you might have, confidence in that area because you've worked it, right? We talked about you mastered that skill. But in general, maybe you walk into a room and you don't have confidence in a social setting or something like that. So we have that core deep self-confidence that we'll talk about, and then we also have the situational confidence.
Right.
So for this unit, I thought it'd be really nice to start off with all the positive stuff, all the benefits that we gain from being confident, or having mastered some confidence in our life, right? So let's break those down. All right, number one, Mel, go for it.
Okay, number one is personal growth, right? And who doesn't need a little personal growth now and then? And again, personal growth comes from taking that first step again and being brave enough to try something that you haven't done before and that you have no contextual history about. And so taking that step, getting yourself taking that risk and trying something new, that helps you to build that confidence, right?
Yeah, we learn a lot, right? As we make mistakes, right? We learn, get back on the horse, do it differently this time, right? So there is a lot
improving over and over, continuously
personal
improving.
growth, right?
Yeah.
And relationships, that's another way that confidence can show up in our lives, or that can be a really beautiful asset to our life if we have confidence in that relationship. Confidence to maintain healthy relationships by, feeling like we can speak our truth, that we can be in a relationship or a partnership where we feel that we can communicate and express how we feel, stand in our truth, and feel really like solid about that and confident.
And that goes back to our relationship module where you had to learn to choose people in your life or keep people in your life that do make you resonate that way, right? And not put you down, and
that uplift you.
Exactly.
And it's about being able to voice your boundaries and stick with them, right? Because you have the confidence that you're aligned with what you want and that you're with the people who will respect that.
That's right. And that puts us into number 3, which is career success. So, we all have this thing called a job or a career, and the more we work at a particular field, again, the better we get, right? So our career can go in a certain direction when we have confidence about our skills in that set of the skill set that's needed for our career. And people who have this skill set and feel that confidence go further in their careers than people who are a little bit shy or a little bit unsure about themselves, right? The confidence isn't there.
Yeah, I mean, we all know, and I mean, we'll talk about it as well about, you don't have to be the loudest person in the room, right? To be confident, right? But yes, if you have that career confidence, it can really accentuate your place in your office,
right?
Or your...
Again, you risk speaking out or taking initiative on a work project that other people may not, because you're just confident that whether or not you know that specific thing, you can get it done, right? And a lot of people would not have the confidence to even voice that. So that's important.
Another area, the fourth area, is the mental well-being. That, if you have a confident outlook on life, if you are feeling confident about sort of your life in general, it's a really good place to be for mental wellness, right? Right now, we know there's lots of stressors out there. It's kind of a crazy world we live in, as they say, but if you are able to feel confident about the line in the sand that you're drawing, your alignment with what is going on in the world, your integrity, it's a really good feeling to stand in that confidence and not have the self-doubt, which might also help eliminate some of the other mental wellness things like anxiety or
self-doubt.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it helps in that area.
Yeah, it leads to overall improved well-being for sure.
Yeah.
And then on to goal achieving, right? So again, confidence is key to be able to get to that goal, right? We have something in mind down the distance, but if we are always seeing the obstacles in the way, that is what it's gonna be harder to overcome those things. But if we're focused on that goal instead of everything that's gonna pop up, I don't know if you've ever done renovations in a house, for example, but as soon as you tear a wall down, you think, oh, it'll be just, we'll put this right back up and we'll fix it up, no problem. But there's always like wires that have been bent and broken back there from mice or other things that have happened that you don't foresee before you take that wall off, right? So it's, again, all these obstacles can come up in your way that you didn't realize. But if you're confident about it and you're really focused on that goal ahead of you, then you can get further, and that helps you get to that
yeah, it gives you the motivation,
right.
I think, as well, to just keep pushing forward. And you know, when you look at your past experiences, you might feel confident from an outcome from, you know, previous. So it just can keep recurring in your life. When you want to set a goal, you feel like, you know what, I am the kind of person who achieves my goals, and I don't let this stop me from doing it because I haven't done it before, right?
You can be determined to get that goal done, get that wall back up, even when the mice have messed up.
That's a really random example.
It was random, but I think it gets the point across.
It does. And finally, a way that that confidence can really show up beautifully in our life is through leadership. And I feel like if you look at any great leader, anybody who can step outside of that box, some of the, you know, descriptive words you might use for them would be confidence. They have a voice. They aren't afraid to be heard. They aren't afraid that it might go against, you know, what's happening with, or another opinion, right? That you stand in that truth that you belong in. And I think that's really a part of it too. When you connect with your truth and you really connect and align with your vision on something or your thoughts about something, then it is so much easier to stand confidently in that truth and in that position.
Yeah.
And speak about it, right? And maybe become that leader. And it can be, you know, it can be on a bigger stage, or it can just be a leader in your community or your social friends. You're the one taking the initiative to get things going, right? So it does present in beautiful leadership qualities.
And interestingly enough, that can help make better followers too, because people in your team or who are working with you or family or whatever the case may be, when they see that confidence in that person taking the lead, they become confident in that confidence, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
All right.
We always want to surround ourselves by, you know, people who are, you know, greater, or do better things than us, so that we're always having that something to look up to. So
That's right.
yeah.
Sometimes it means tough decisions, but that's part of the confidence, right? Standing by them.
So let's talk a little bit about where lack of confidence or a challenge or barrier to having confidence can show up in our lives, right? Because it can negatively impact us as well when we don't have confidence. So the big one, I think the pink elephant in the room for, you know, we talk a lot about is body image, right? Self-image. How do we feel about ourselves, right? And when we don't feel good about ourselves, when we don't love that person looking back at us in the mirror, it can take a toll on our confidence, and it actually can present itself in many ways. It, you know, just because that's the core issue, it can come up in how, you know, we react to other people, or how we hear a comment to somebody else. We take it upon ourselves. We take things personally because we don't feel good about ourselves. So self-image, the perception that we have, truth versus perception about ourselves, including, like, you know, anything, could be an internal thing that, you know, how we handle things, you know, just like our inside, or it could be our outside and our physical body. And we know as we age that
Things
is
change.
something that, it's constantly changing. And, you know, this wrinkle wasn't here last week, and this, you know, sunspot is coming up, and there's always stuff that we can really see.
Pick on.
And we can see the negative if we look for it, right?
So, and it doesn't help that social media and news and
100%.
all they're all pushing this perfect image, right? The supermodel.
Everything's
vision.
filtered and, people like, I don't know, light out their blemishes.
The fake world.
Yeah,
right.
It's a very fake world out there, and we're surrounded by it. So it's
so we
easy
have to
constantly see that, right? So so self-image is a way that without having confidence, it can negatively impact.
Absolutely. And then kind of leading into negative self-talk, right? Because if we have a particular self-image about ourselves, we might start picking on all of these things about ourselves, and that's a negative loop for that whole confidence cycle, right?
So it undermines everything that you're trying to work on when you're trying to be confident, and then you're telling yourself, oh, that was bad, that looked terrible, or can't believe you just said that out loud, like constantly criticizing yourself.
Good one. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it's going to feed into the wrong thing, and we have to, even if we don't entirely believe it, we have to start telling ourselves all the good stuff. That's that vibration again. It's everything that we want to be, we have to tell ourselves that we can be, and feed the confidence part of ourselves.
Yeah, because words matter, and whatever you tell yourself, you're going to eventually believe, right? So keep it positive.
That's right.
Another way is past experiences. So we mentioned this earlier, when something has, we've done something and we have failed at it, or we didn't succeed in the way we want, that can take its toll, right? It can really break down our confidence. Maybe we went in confidently and all of a sudden it's like it didn't work out.
Or somebody said something.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't received well. You thought you did a great job on, the boss did not give you that accommodation that you had hoped, or the credit. And it can knock us down on our confidence level and take us a step back, and it makes us, do we even bother trying again, or how do we get that confidence? It's back, because it's starting to spiral downward. So things that we've done in the past can really greatly affect where we stand in the present moment, right?
Totally, 100%. Then we have our comparing ourselves. So we feel like we have to, again, that could take that model, we have to look like that. Why don't we look like that? Why I have to put a filter on, or I have to do all this just to look a certain way? Constantly comparing ourselves to either the way somebody is, or their career, or their family,
thinking about a job, right? Like your colleague, right? Maybe their productivity, or what they got done, and why didn't you get done, or they got credit for it and you thought yours was the same. You're always comparing yourself to people in your life, even like, it could be a sibling, right? Like, oh, mom thanked her, the gift was from both of us. Like, you're always like, why am I getting the short end of the stick? Right. Or
and we have to remember also that we're all unique, right? That we all have our own strengths, we all have our own weaknesses, and not to focus on these little things that can kind of knock us down a peg, right?
Yeah. And so with comparing ourselves to other people, another way that kind of negatively impacts us is just the lack of support that we might not have support from our family and friends. We're endeavoring on a new project. We want to be confident. We want to think we can do it. And they're not backing us. They're like giving us deterrence. They're telling us we can't do it, or there's going to be obstacles. They're making it difficult for us. They're throwing their, bad juju into your confidence, and it's going to start to spiral downward, right? And we have those social interactions sometimes, even, just on a light, basis, where you're just having a conversation and someone says something and you're like, oh, I don't quite know how to take that. Okay. It just knocks you down, and you walk away thinking,
what did they mean by that?
Is that what they think of me? Or is that really how I am, or I look, or present myself? So it makes us second guess ourselves sometimes. And, we start to base our self-worth on what other people, say, or their lack of support, or our social interactions with them. Yeah.
Sometimes they're not all great, right? Another thing we have to look at is a perfectionism.
I know what you're talking about.
We all have a little of it, in some way or another, but perfectionism can really be a bit of a jabbing force into our confidence, because who the heck is perfect? I don't know, but we always
Yeah.
want to strive for that somehow.
And there's nothing wrong with striving to be really good at what you do and really working hard, right? And being proud of yourself. So there's the pride, which I think is okay, but you put the ego aside, and then, you know, if you have to hit perfect all the time, what happens when you don't?
Yeah.
It takes a knock on that confidence.
We
right?
are human and we do make mistakes, right? So we have to see that having high standards is fine, but sometimes things mess up. The road isn't straight.
And sometimes you won't take that leap of faith or you know, try something new, take a risk because you're so worried you have to perfect it.
Right.
As a good example for that
That's very true, actually.
is when I moved to Brazil at 17 for an exchange program, and I was trying to learn the language, but I was so afraid to sound silly or speak it wrong. Like anytime you learn a new language, right, you're like, oh my God, they're gonna laugh at me, I'm gonna sound silly, I'm gonna say something completely wrong. So it was really hard to have confidence to speak with everybody around me, right? So I sat back for about 3 months and I said very little, a little bit, but you know, I didn't really start speaking it until I felt confident. And at least I used those 3 months to...
You were a sponge.
Yes, I was sponging it in. I was trying to learn a new skill and listen. So I made use of that time. I didn't just like, okay, I can't get this and I'm giving up. Like, this is too much. No, but it was really hard to jump in and take that first step, but that's what you have to do. But I was so worried about not being perfect.
Right.
Imagine that. Oh, goodness. All right. So what about limited self-beliefs? That's stuff that has been ingrained in us potentially since we were, you know, little, and we kept hearing it from other people saying what we could or couldn't do or should or shouldn't do. Those kinds of beliefs that are limiting us can really take its toll on our confidence because we've already been set up, predisposed to believing if we could or couldn't before we've even given it a shot, right?
Yeah, it's true.
So yeah, like it's that, you know, or like, for example, I hear people saying, well, you know, I'm getting on now in years, I'm going to slow down. Like, why? Just because like that is the perception that everybody as you age needs to slow down, right? So now you don't have confidence to try something new or to go and engage in something that's more physically, you know, exerting because you think you're supposed to slow down. So you've lost your confidence, right? Because you've been told all your life that's how it is, and you're going to fail if you try it at this age. So why bother trying?
Yeah, so you have to gauge that, right? You have to say, no, I think I can do this, or I want to work up to being able to do this, and just try it.
Yeah.
Now, I was younger at the time, but it makes me think of when I was a pack leader in Central America, I kind of just went. I didn't actually speak any Spanish. So I went a week early and I went into a school like where you stay with a family that's local and you go into a school for a few hours in the day. And then I had to lead people around Central America and pretend I knew what I was doing.
You had to be confident.
I had to have
So they would have confidence in you.
And I had to be able to say something in the right language of the German wasn't going to cut it, and English very occasionally.
There's something to be said for fake it till you make it.
That's right. That's part of that.
It is. It's right. Tell yourself you can do it. Other people start believing you when they believe it and they have confidence in you.
That's right. They don't know any different.
Okay, I guess I got this, right? And then boom, you just have it.
It just worked out. And that leads us into kind of having this imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I would say that's something that comes up that can be really detrimental to, you know, maintaining confidence when you don't feel, you know, like you belong in that, you know, profession, or you don't feel that you're the best at it, and you're like, what am I doing here? Imposter syndrome keeps coming up. I don't know, like I hear it all the time now.
It's kind of like when we have to do videos together, and that's kind of her thing, talking in general, and, you know, being an actress, and then I have to be like,
actress.
And it's me, like, you know, so that's a confidence thing that I have to get over.
See, I never would have even thought of that,
but it's there.
It's for you. And that's inside. It's how we feel about ourselves. It's something that's telling ourselves that, you know, that's their thing. It's not my thing. I'm the imposter, or I'm not good enough, right? And it's feeling the courage to say, okay, well, I've got to do it. I don't have a choice. So I'm going to take that first step, get through it, and then the more you do it, right?
That's what they say.
Are these getting any better? I don't know. Oh, goodness me. All right. Well, I think we've chatted a lot about confidence for the first week. There's a lot more to say here, but we'll leave it for the next few weeks, including the tips and tools, because there are a lot of things that can empower us to, practice this skill of confidence that we're going to talk about week 3. But let's not get ahead of ourselves.
No.
That was a bit too confident of me.
And we're done.
Yeah. We will see you next week. Have a great and confident week.
Bye.
Bye.